I'm John Dessauer. Most of you know me. I'm half Japanese, half Mexican, for those of you that I am. I don't look the Mexican part, I know, and that's where the confusion lies. I understand that. But, yeah. What was so funny is when I got done speaking earlier this week, by the way, I feel like I've been speaking the last 3 weeks here, but when I got done speaking, we only had half the size of this room right now. And I kept telling the people that were here for the first 2 days, hey, this room is going to be jam-packed all the way to the back. You know, you want to make sure you come in, you get seats, and I see the people that listen to me. Well, you guys weren't here, but you did listen to me when I said get up front. And that's good. That's very good. I get to talk about probably my favorite topic in the world, which is multifamily. And for those of you that weren't here for the first couple days, I grew up here. I live here. This is the best city in the world, period. I know you guys have an argument against that, but it really is. I grew up on the very south side of this city. If you see this book right here, and you open it to the maps, my parents started off, what page is that? 12? If you go to page 12, my parents started off right at the bottom here in Roseland. And then we moved just a little bit further south of there. But that's kind of where I grew up. And I left the state, as I said, on the first day to go to university, out to the very state next door to the west, Iowa. And growing up in Chicago, no one knows where Iowa is. They think it's closer to California than it is to Illinois. And of course they said that Iowa stands for idiots out walking around. Why would I want to go to school there? And I said, I don't care about that. You know, listen, I no diversity. I'm half Japanese, half Mexican. So I can deal with anything that comes my way. Right, Yoshi? And so when I went to university and I graduated, I got involved after graduation in the environmental field. I was a double major. You might think, wow, double major. I'm saying that to impress you. But I was a biology and business administration major. That's not very common, by the way. I originally thought I wanted to be a dentist. So I got accepted into the pre-dental program. And then a couple years into school, now this is going to sound, this is going to sound different than I intend it to. I realized that I didn't want to be in people's mouths the rest of my life. So I decided not to become a dentist, and I added the business degree, which was really good because of this topic right here. Now, I didn't know at that point that I was going to eventually get into multifamily units, but I did know that a business degree was going to make me more well-rounded, okay? So I also told the story in my first and second day here this week about the fact that until I was 20, let's see, I must have been 22. Yeah, we've been trying to get this fixed the whole time, if you could look at that over the break. I'm just kidding. She's like, I don't even know what that is. Yeah, that could be a light out, it could be a leak, I don't know. We got a snag on the carpet over here too. But when I, up until about 22, I lived in apartments my whole life. Multifamily was my life. Growing up on the south side of the city. And what was interesting about that is I've learned the very business that I'm in today from the inside looking out. And most people look at the apartment market from the outside looking in. So I got to see the owner of the apartment building come and collect the rents every month. And I thought that was pretty cool because what I witnessed was that guy collecting all the checks and my mother going to her 9 to 5 every day, and then some, to create that rental check for my 2 brothers and sister and I. So we had 4 in the family. So I witnessed that every day. I just thought that was a unique way to learn about that business. I truly think that when you think about multifamilies, it's a little bit more intimidating. Steve has a really good way of explaining things in a way that they seem simple and they seem maybe kind of easy. Multifamily unit properties, there's a dynamic with them that creates a sense of difficulty that you don't need to be a rocket scientist, but you do need to have a strategy and you do need to have a plan. And I tell everybody up front, it's going to be difficult. This, with what we're talking about, is a difficult thing. Now, again, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to make this work. You all can make this work. I know most of you. I've talked with most of you, with a few exceptions. You all can make this work. I'm kidding, of course. So I want to kind of point out today and tomorrow some of those things, the basics that you'll need. I also want to point out some kind of more advanced strategies. I think that you're totally going to dig that. I know a lot of you, well, not a lot of you, I guess. Some of you actually have multifamily unit properties under contract right now. Just show of hands on that. Show of hands, okay, quite a few. How many people are looking for multifamily units right now? Okay, that's a lot more. The other thing I was going to mention tomorrow, this is what I need you to do. You're going to have homework tonight. Yay. The homework is this. If you could bring a multifamily deal with you tomorrow. I don't want you to show it to me, but I want you to bring a deal. And this is what I need you to bring on that deal. 3 things. The sales price, the net operating income, and the market cap rate. If you can bring me those 3 things, I'm going to show you my system in kind of understanding what I do and how I do it. Those 3 things, if that's cool. If that's cool, okay? So that's your homework. If you could bring those. How many people already have that? Okay, because I gave those instructions the first couple days. Very good, you guys listen. Very good, very good. Now tomorrow I know we may have some excuses. John, I had a deal, but my dog ate it. Right, I had a deal, but someone took it from me. Let's try to minimize those if we can. Let me switch gears here a second because I wrote about this in my first book. And I'm not trying to promote the fact that I'm an author, but I did want to promote the fact that, okay. I did want to promote the fact that there's a method to my madness here, and that is this. You've heard that saying, and it's interesting because of my science background, but you've heard that saying, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? That is so true in science, and that is so true in real estate investing. Absolutely, positively true. So in 2006 and 2007, when the real estate market was booming, and everyone was buying single-family homes because of the programs, by the way. It was the loan programs. I mean, they had the negative amortization loan, the adjustable rate mortgage. They had a program that if you had terrible credit, no problem, we'll find a way to get you a house. Well, what was left when the boom was going on with single-family houses with regard to the multifamily side is we were struggling for occupancy during that time frame. 06 and 07 was a very tough period for us. And I try to take a step back. Instead of looking at a tree, I try to look at the forest a lot of times. So this is a typical real estate deal, by the way, or a real estate market. Okay? It's something like that. And what happens at the bottom of a market when a market starts to mature, you get communication that happens in the marketplace. And that communication at the beginning of a market, very much down here, like we're at today, kind of happens like this. Well, I've just come off some losses, or, I don't really know what's happening in the marketplace. There's a little bit of uncertainty going on. And then as the market matures, the communication changes. So when we get to about right here, there's communication that changes in this fashion. I know some people that are starting to get involved in the real estate market, and they seem to be doing okay. They're getting a little bit of appreciation. They're getting a little bit of cash flow. I think I'm interested in that. And then all of a sudden, the market gets to here. And what's interesting about here is the majority of what we call the investors get into the marketplace at the top of the market. That's really what happened during the real estate boom. In 06 and 07, the majority of what we thought were investors got in at that market. The problem was they were not investors. They were what? Speculators. There's no speculation or room for speculation in the real estate investor's life. That's my own personal opinion. We're not here to speculate. Why? Because speculation has to do with hope. And hope is not a strategy that you want to employ with real estate investing. You have to have an exact plan. An exact plan, step by step, what you want to do. You've got to target a market, you've got to decide on a market, and then you've got to get there and go to work. Everybody's like, well, John, you grew up here, you live here. Steve loves it here. Steve and I and Heather and Steph went out to dinner 2 nights ago, and we're driving downtown. He's like, I really love Chicago. How come you haven't mentioned it as a good location to invest? And I said, Steve, this is my place. You don't think I want everybody coming and stealing my opportunities, do you? But I really think for those of you that are thinking about investing, period, and you're looking at this type of thing, we're not near here at all. We're not near here. Where I see this as a market maturing, if we flip the switch, this is not single family now, this is multifamily. I really think that we're here on the multifamily side of things. What's coincidental about that is we're also fairly here on the single family house side of things. Remember I said for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction? For the action that happened and the fallout of single family homes, it destroyed millions and millions of people's credit. It destroyed millions and millions of people's opportunity to save money for a down payment. And that is actually fueling what I am calling this growth that's going to happen over the next, I don't have a crystal ball, but I would say at least 10 years. The opportunity that we have in the multifamily market is chronic. Chronic meaning long-term rather than acute. Most markets that happen, like the boom in real estate, that was an acute event. It happened over a 24, 36-month period. This chronic event of the demand for rental housing is going to happen over the next 10 years. I have a feeling it's going to be longer than that, but the demand for multifamily units and rentals in general is going to surely outpace the supply. And that's kind of where the theme of our story for today and tomorrow lie. If you had to choose the most perfect business, you would choose a business in which you had high demand and stagnant or limited supply. Wouldn't you? Correct? That's almost the foundation of any business that you'd want to get into. High demand and low or stagnant supply. If you don't grasp that, if you can't grasp that, I think you're missing a huge point of why you're sitting in that seat. Why you're sitting in that seat. You got to think about that. That's got to be your overall theme. Now, this whole process, by the way, has happened several times in at least the history of the states here. Remember I said earlier I like to look at the forest rather than just the tree. That might be the tree that I just drew, but the forest kind of goes like this, okay? And what happens is you want to try to judge these markets on the upswing, meaning, you know, this might be in the early 70s. Here in the early 70s in the States, we had a recession. Most recessions, by the way, are triggered or caused by what? Anybody know? No one knows? Interest rates? That's a symptom. What's the root of the problem of higher interest rates? Inflation. Very good. Most recessions are triggered or fueled or started at least by inflation. So when someone said interest rates are the symptom to inflation, meaning that our Federal Reserve comes in and says we have to limit the money supply that's out in the marketplace by raising interest rates. You raise interest rates, less people borrow, there's less money out into the marketplace, that type of thing. So in the 70s, we had a scenario of inflation. You remember the energy crisis that happened? Man, I remember being here on the south side and my mother having this car. It was a I don't know what it was, but it was a Buick Opal. You ever heard of these cars? Now, I have two brothers and one sister. My brothers are bigger than me. They happen to go the football route. I went the basketball route. But regardless of how big we were, I was the smallest of the boys. My sister could beat the crap out of all three of us, no problem. At one time, by the way. Right? She'd be beating me up over here, Steve up over here, and anyway. So I remember sitting in the back of that ar, and the material that the seats were made out of was this kind of vinyl material that in the summertime here, now you may not know it this week, but in the summertime here, it gets hot and humid. This is not a good example the last few days, although it's going to be, I think, 88 today and sunny, tomorrow 90 and sunny for your weather purposes. But normally it's a lot more humid than it is today as well. But when you sit in this car, and if you got a tank top on, or God forbid, no shirt on, and you get up out of that seat, your skin rips off your back. Okay? I'm just letting you know that's what happens. And I remember getting in the car, my mom saying, you know, we got to go for gas. This Buick Opal, by the way, did not have any air conditioning. And you might think, oh, come on, John, suck it up. Well, that's all well and good in Chicago in the summertime, until you take a family trip down to Lion Country Safari in, what was that, Georgia or Florida one summer. This car had no air conditioning, so we had to have the windows down, and I had lions, and they walk right up to the car because you drive through the park. I could smell the lion's breath. It was insane. It was seriously insane. I'm kind of bitching in the back seat. My sister's beating us up. Shut up. My mom's trying to drive. I got lions on both sides of me. And you know they're looking at me because I look like the slowest runner. I was the youngest. I was getting comments from my brothers saying, you know, Steve's talking to Dave, and Steve's like, Dave, you know, we don't have to run very fast. We just have to outrun John, kind of thing. So anyway. But I remember waiting in line for gas, sitting in that car, and waiting and waiting and waiting. And I also remember how fast that issue dissipated. It went away in one summer. Because I remember my mom saying, come on, we're going to go get gas. I'm like, I don't want to go get gas. Like, no, you understand that we don't have to wait in line anymore. It's over. And then, you know, other things happened, like this might be the 80s. What happened in the 80s here in the States? Anybody know? We had a couple things happen. One of them was a savings and loan scandal. Savings and loan scandal where 4,000 banks failed. This tends to be a pattern in our country. I don't know why that is. Who are these people that run banks, by the way? You know, you think that they wear the red tie, the white shirt, the blue suit, but yet they always fail. Or something's going on. They're in the news for scandal, whatever. But savings and loan crash. Inflation happened. Of course, 2001, when we had the terrorist events That happened also, sparked an inflation. The point I'm getting at here is this happens, and this seems to be acute events. Our government comes in, we add stimulus perhaps, we raise or lower interest rates, we do all of these other policies, the Jobs Act, all these other things. The reason I'm stating this, because if I take a step back and I look at this forest, the forest today looks different than it did 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. Why? Because what we have today is a chronic issue. Our next housing crisis in this country is going to be the lack of good rental housing for Americans. And that's why this topic is so important today. Americans aren't buying these. You saw that statistic, she said 1.7. It was actually 1.07 trillion dollars of foreign investors coming in to buy real estate. 1.07 trillion. Not in 10 years. That's 1 year. That's in 1 year. When you put a trillion, TR, that is a lot of money. It's not enough to live on, but it's a good start. $1 trillion? Wow, $1 trillion. That's a lot of foreigners coming in to buy real estate. You've got to notice that issue of rental housing and that demand, because it's imperative that you learn what I'm teaching you today, really. And that's I hope I've impressed upon you that fact.